INFJs and Empaths. If I was your therapist, these are the 4 things that I would desperately want you to know. And number 4 is something that comes up all of the time, so I really want to address this with you today. So please stay to the end so that you can hear what it is. Before we get into the video, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Sam. I'm an Australian-based online counsellor for INFJs, gentle souls, empaths, and neurodivergent people. This is my passion. I'm an INFJ myself, and I know how important it is to provide a therapy space for other INFJs. Okay, the first thing that I would want you to know. Now, we all know that as INFJs and as empaths, we are the type of people who are constantly feeling misunderstood. We are the people that we might know a lot of people in our community, we might have a lot of friends, we might have a lot of social groups, but often we feel like a fish out of water. Like we don't quite fit into with our peers. We don't quite fit in with our work colleagues, maybe with our family, just with the general community around us. Now the thing is, what makes therapy effective and powerful is when the client, such as yourself, feels understood. When the person connects with their therapist and they feel understood, they feel heard, and they feel validated. Sadly, I have come across so many INFJs and empaths who, when they've tried therapy in the past, they felt like the therapist just wasn't getting them. That they just weren't vibing with the therapist. They have felt like when they've shared, and this is certainly my experience too, when they're sharing about what's going on and they're sharing their stories and sharing their life, it just feels like there's a bit of a disconnect between themselves and the therapist. Now, I want to encourage you that when you're in therapy, if you're trying therapy, that it's really important that you connect with your therapist, because 80% of effective therapy is in that connection. It's in that rapport. And so if I was your therapist, INFJ and empaths, I would want you to know, or I would want to know, that you are feeling understood, that you feel like I am hearing you, that I'm not missing a beat. And I would want you to know that you can speak up. You can tell your therapist, or you can tell me if you feel like we're not really hearing you. Now, it is our job, of course, to hear you, and we're trained to hear you, and we're trained to have that connection with you. And boy, if you knew what was going on in our brains, in our minds, and our hearts, and our souls while you're sharing with us, you would probably be really surprised. There's a lot that happens, a lot behind the scenes, under the surface. But my heart for you is that you find a space where you finally feel understood. Because if you're going through life where you're constantly misunderstood and feeling like people aren't getting you, that's incredibly invalidating. And that invalidation does not help you in your healing journey. Okay, the second thing, INFJs and empaths. I wouldn't be surprised if you are that solid rock for other people. I wouldn't be surprised if you're resilient. You've faced things, you've gone through things, and you know how to stand strong. You are like a strong tree. Your roots go down deep and nothing will shake you. I'm sure that when tragedy happens in your community or in your family, you are the person that others turn to. You are the person that reaches out, wanting to support people, love people, and be that listening ear. Now, when you are constantly that strong person, it's a really weird feeling to be in a therapy session, to be sitting here with your therapist, with me, and not have to be strong, where you can be the one to let your guard down, to be vulnerable, to pull that wall down. And so, INFJs and empaths, if I was your therapist, I would want you to know that in a therapy session, yes, I see that you are strong. I see that you are resilient, and I know that you've got this and you're gonna pull through. But in this session, you don't need to wear that mask. You can take that mask off. You can breathe, and you can let your emotions come to the surface. Those tears that you've been holding onto because you feel like you gotta stand tall for everybody else, you can let them go. You can let those tears freely flow down your face. You can let those emotions and those feelings come up, bubble up out of your heart, and know that in this 1 hour session, this is your opportunity to be held, not physically, but emotionally and spiritually, to be held by somebody else. Okay, number 3. If I was your therapist, INFJ, this is what I would want you to know. I know that, like I said before, you're strong. And I know that you're intuitive. I know that you have the answers deep within you. I know that you can hear your intuition. And if you can't, I know that at one point you were able to. I know that you know what is best for your life. And so I sometimes meet INFJs or empaths who feel like they don't need therapy because they've got everything together, because they're strong, they're resilient, like we said. But the thing is, therapy is a place where you can talk and get clarity. Sometimes when we are stuck in that thinking loop, we have all these thoughts whirling around, chat. Maybe I should do this, or my heart's saying this, and chat. And it can get so muddled up. And when we get muddled up and we're like right up close to the issues or the problems, or if we have multiple issues going on or multiple balls that we're juggling, it can be difficult to have clarity on your situation, and it can be difficult to understand what it is that you're feeling and where you're feeling it in your body. And it is so important that we as humans understand our emotions, and not only that, but know where we're feeling it, because I'm sure you've seen the book, like the body keeps the score. Our body holds onto trauma. Our body holds onto emotions. And so if I was your therapist, INFJ, empaths, gentle souls, I would want you to know that this is a space for you to get clarity. That as you talk it out, where, you know what, this is probably one of the only spaces where you actually can talk it out, because normally you are the listening ear for everybody else. Or if your friend decides they want to listen to you, you start talking and then they jump in with their own story, which is fine, that's friendship, they're not your therapist. But in therapy, this is where you can talk uninterrupted. I mean, sometimes I might interrupt you if I feel like we're not pausing at big moments when you say something and it's like the diamond in the rough. Sometimes I might say, okay, let's pause and let's sit with what you just said, and let's unwrap this a little bit more and discover where you're feeling it in your body. But it is in this talking that all of these thoughts, these jumbled up thoughts, get clarity and they get clearer, and you're able to have a higher perspective on your situation. And it's in the talking that you will then hear the whispers of your soul, the whispers of your intuition, giving you direction, allowing you to see what your next steps are. And it's so powerful when you can do that talking witnessed by somebody else, such as me, who can then summarize what you're saying and summarize it in a way for you to hear it in a way that you didn't even realize until you heard it said back. And number 4, now this fourth point of what I would want you to know, INFJs and empaths, if I was your therapist, came about when I saw a Threads post. And in this Threads post, someone wrote, "Why is it so hard to break up with your therapist? I've been trying for about 6 weeks now, but somehow can't bring myself to pull the plug." I replied to that Threads and I shared that if I was her therapist, I would be like celebrating if you felt like you didn't need therapy anymore. Like, that's amazing, and let's have a conversation and let's wrap things up and reflect on how far you've come. But this person then responded and in this Threads and was talking about how she doesn't want to hurt her therapist's feelings. Now, this is a big one that I see come up for INFJs and empaths, because you are empathetic. You feel the feelings of other people, and that might also mean feeling the feelings of your therapist, or not wanting to feel the feelings of your therapist, or not wanting to hurt them, wanting to people please them. If I was your therapist, INFJ and empath, what I would want you to know is you do not need to worry about me or my feelings, because the relationship between a therapist and a client, it is so sacred and so special. It is completely different than any other relationship you'll have. It is different than your friendships. It is different than being with your partner, obviously. It is different than with your family members. This is a sacred, confidential space where there are boundaries that are put in place. And part of those boundaries is where you do not need to worry about us. We are trained for this, okay? You do not need to worry about our feelings or protecting us. I've had people in the past say that they would ask permission to share their trauma with me because they were afraid I wouldn't be able to handle it. Now, most therapists, I know I am anyway, we are trained to work with trauma. We are trauma informed. I've been working with trauma since I was 18. Maybe not in that as a therapist, but certainly as a youth worker and a community services worker, okay? Nothing you say to me will shock me. Nothing you say to me is going to pull me down. I am not going to end the therapeutic session stressing out. And you know what? If it makes you feel any better, if it is a case when I hear something and it's like, whoa, that's full on, I as a therapist, and I'm sure other therapists obviously would have this too, we have our own inner resources. I have a supervisor that I talk to. It's like therapy. And I have my own tools to regulate myself. And not only that, but ethically, if we felt like we were not equipped or had the right skills to work with you in whatever it is that you're going through, we would let you know that, and we would refer you to the appropriate person so that you get the right support with the right skills. And so again, I want you to know that you do not need to worry about me or your therapist. Of course, that doesn't mean to be jerks to us. We're still human, and yes, we do have feelings. So like, I wouldn't go into your therapy room and say, you're an a-hole and I'm gonna I don't know, do something drastic. Like, no, like, be respectful, but you don't need to worry about hurting our feelings if you felt like you wanted to move on from therapy.